I didn't really have a why. My why was work until I fall over and make money. And that has changed pretty significantly.
Welcome to Life, Business, and Everything in Between, the podcast for small business owners, creatives, and entrepreneurs navigating the space between big dreams and everyday chaos. I am Leslie Shields, a longtime entrepreneur married to another crazy entrepreneur and raising a tiny human in the middle of it all. This show brings you real conversations, honest insights, and practical encouragement to help you keep going. Whether you're building a brand, pivoting through change, or just trying to lead yourself, well, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the very first podcast of Life, Business, and Everything in Between. And I have to tell you guys, this is not the first one recorded. I have put this off and canceled on myself 5 times to record this first episode. The first episode is really like an intro to me and kind of my founder's journey and why I'm doing this podcast and kind of how I got where I got. And I got real scared and it got really intimidating. And I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And so actually I was talking to my husband and he suggested, well, then don't do it by yourself. Get one of your good girlfriends to do it with you. And that way you guys are just kind of talking through it instead of you being so intimidated on just like getting on the camera and telling the story by yourself. And so I begged and pleaded and asked nicely to one of my best friends, Kaitlin, and she's going to help me do the podcast. And so we are super excited. She's here. So let me just kind of introduce her. We became really good friends in our neighborhood during COVID because that's who you hung out with, was people in your pod. And now she lives in Arkansas. So we don't get to see each other every single day like we did before. But I'm still very lucky to have her in my life. And I kind of want to just like set the tone for why we're doing this podcast and how we're going to do it. And it's all about real life, real business, vulnerability, and everything that happens in the messy middle. Because this entrepreneur journey, this life journey is not easy. None of it's easy. And actually, Kaitlin is living on the other side of their own entrepreneur journey now too. And so that's really exciting, but also super scary. So you're going to see a couple of times to this podcast. Some of these we've done in the morning and I've got a cup of coffee. It's 5:01.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
So it is 5 o'clock somewhere. So I'm ready and I have my little Shields Agency wine glass. So we're just going to kind of get started. And thanks, Kaitlin. You want to like introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are too?
Well, I think you already said most of it. And to be honest, it's not like you had to beg me that hard. When I was asked to do this, I said, well, I love Leslie Shields enough to do this exactly one time. So here we are. I can't imagine how anxiety ridden it was trying to do this by yourself, because you asking me to just have a conversation with you was a little anxiety inducing on its own. But I'm really excited to be here because we used to have lots of like back patio chats with a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or everything in between, and kids playing everywhere. And we don't do that now. And so I feel like today we get to reclaim that space a little bit.
It's fun.
I'm really privileged to be here with you, Leslie. And I'm excited because I got to know you in the middle of this journey, and I have not heard a lot of the stories of the way back. And so today we get to dial it all the way back and talk about
all the way back. Yep. And we get to talk about kind of from how I started in the business until really how I grew the agency and what the journey and the struggles of growing the agency, how it created my value and who we are as a company. And I think what our mission and purpose in the world is. And strangely enough, I think before going through some of the really hard shit, I didn't really have a why. My why was work until I fall over and make money. And that has changed pretty siggetly.
Absolutely has. Significantly.
So Kaitlin and I actually met. We both, and maybe a little bit pre-COVID, we met on our neighborhood.
I think we met through a mutual neighbor just a couple of months before the sky fell.
Yeah, the sky fell. Yep. And we were both on our neighborhood board, and I did that. We both did it. What, you were like, you did more years than I did.
I did it for a long time.
Yeah.
I did it. I don't remember. I think it was 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. And I think it's so funny is I can't imagine anybody getting into something because they want to be in leadership. Like I just get involved in stuff because I'm like, something has to change. I need to get, if I'm going to bitch about it, I want to help do something. And so that's kind of why I
You
got
are a
involved
put
in
your
it.
money where your mouth is kind of
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. So if I'm going to bitch, I'm going to do something.
Right.
And so that's how we ended up. But luckily we did, because we kind of formed like I got to meet Kaitlin and some of other really lovely people and got a
Really
really good
amazing neighbors. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting is it's Kaitlin does not live there anymore, but I still do. And it's a spicy neighborhood.
Yeah.
And when you live in a spicy neighborhood, you need your neighbors.
You got to be scrappy.
Yeah. And you got to know people,
Uh-huh.
because that way people got your back. People got
That's
your
right.
back in a spicy neighborhood. It's not like an HOA place where everybody doesn't talk
No,
to each other. No.
no, it's not. But
Yeah.
even like, I think if we dial you all the way back, you just celebrated 10 years of owning your own business.
Yeah.
If we dial you all the way back 10 years ago, you were in another scrappy little neighborhood then. I think
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
energy attracts you. I think it
Yeah.
fuels you.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So 10 years ago, which is all strange how it kind of worked out, right? I was working for, it wasn't corporate. It was a small business that got bought out by corporate. And I had started, well, I didn't meet my husband right then. I had met him like 5 or 7 years prior to that. We worked together. He was doing marketing for, he was doing like graphic design for a marketing and sales agency, and I was doing sales for this marketing company. And we had met like briefly and in person maybe once. And we had, I'm out there, I'm selling marketing. And I'm like, of course we can do this. I'm selling anything. Somebody asked me if we could do it. Of course we can, as all salespeople do. And I would then call him because he was our vendor to create this stuff. And he's like, why would they do that? And so, I mean, literally, we had a great working relationship then, too. And I'm like, well, I sold it, so you build it. And then it was probably 5 or 6 years after that, that same person that we had worked with reintroduced us. And I was living in East Dallas and he was a Fort Worth guy. And so when we started dating, I moved over to we dated for a while, and then like we dated a year, lived together a year, we were engaged less than a year, and did our house. Yeah, do not get engaged, plan a wedding, and gut a house to remodel it all at the same time.
Well, no, it
But
worked
that's
out
how
for you.
but like, I think my cortisol is still got issues. Like, I'm still messed up from that. But that's how we do stuff, right? Like, I was pregnant during COVID while building an agency. Like while Chris was pivoting his business completely from marketing to video. So this is how we do things. It's a lot. But it's good and it works.
Huh. But he knew that about you
So
from the beginning. You were going to sell it first
I
and
hope
then
so.
figure it out after.
I hope so. Otherwise, he sure was surprised. hmm Okay, so we're going to talk about 5 years in this. So I started in the business. My last corporate job was my last corporate job. I knew it. Both my parents were entrepreneurs, and they both worked for themselves. My dad was a financial advisor and my mom was a therapist. And I knew my last job was my last job. I didn't know what it was going to look like in the entrepreneur space, but I knew that was it. I was done working for people.
Well,
And
like, sit with that for a second. When you say you knew your last job was your last job,
mhm.
what got you there?
I think I just had all these ideas, right? And all of these,
Okay.
I had been, the woman that actually introduced Chris and I was an entrepreneur too. And she and I had been roommates for a while. And I was surrounded by people who were doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I fed on that energy. Yeah. And I don't know, I don't follow rules well. So
No, no. You were drawn to all of that. And there was
yeah.
nothing in the corporate space that was going to draw you back.
Mm-mm. No. And it was pissing me off because like this company I work for,
Not you.
they got bought out and they made all these promises to me. And then I was like, wait a second, that's not what's happening. Yeah, wait, what? That's not what's happening here. And so I knew I was done. And universally, I ended up getting laid off. So I had already decided. My friend was in health insurance. She made great money. She traveled the world. I was single, living in East Dallas, traveling, doing fun stuff all the time. And I was like, well, that looks fun. I like sales. I'm going to do what she does. Let's do that. Why not? Let's just leap into it and see what happens. And I was going to get licensed and like train and start selling because it's commission only. My first like step into being on my own. And then quit my job when I was ready to. But I got laid off, which was actually worked really, really well because I got handed this gift of severance to go and launch my own thing. Yeah. So that was 2015. So Chris and I met in July.
Years ago.
And we started dating in July of 2015. I got laid off and went full-time into my like insurance career in September. And remember, he'd been an entrepreneur for like 10 years before this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a flippin' basket case. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd like sell and dance around, and then I would like not be able to pay my rent and like cry. And it's just this massive roller coaster of crazy. And I remember he's like, you can't let that roller coaster pull you up and down. It's exhausting. You'll burn out. Because there's so many highs and so many lows with the business. So yeah, there's the first 4 years of my business, and planning wedding, and got married, moved to a new city, grew the business. It was a busy 4 years.
It was a busy 4 years. It was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah, absolutely. And then
but if you've ever had anybody tell you you're a lot, then you're like, yeah, and I do a lot.
Yes. And I do a lot. Yeah.
Hold my wine glass and watch this.
Yes. I think, yeah, like there's just like a mentality of get shit done.
Right. So in those early years, in the ups and downs, and Chris, sweet guy that he is trying to hold you in the center.
Mm-hmm.
What was kind of the magic sauce for you? Like how did he show up for you in those years and helping you get through the chaos of early business building?
Yeah, because it's a lot. I mean, I remember when I first moved to Fort Worth, I was just working from the house all the time. And I was starting to go stir crazy. He's like, you have to get out of the house. How do you think you're going to meet people to do business if you don't get out of the house? Mm-hmm. Started going to coffee shops. And then I went to a networking event at Ensemble, which is Tamara Payne. And she and I are still very good friends. Yeah, and when I first met her and I toured the co-working space and I looked around, and she was like, so what brings you here? I was like, well, I just moved in with my boyfriend. He lives here. I'm from Dallas. And she's like, who's your boyfriend? Well, of course she'd know Chris for years, and she flipped out. She's like, oh my God, I've been trying to set him up with people forever. And here you are.
And you were like, no way.
Yeah, we've done now. And then so they had known each other for years before, and now she and I are really, really good friends. Which I think he helped me get connected, but also just like, you can't go up and down, up and down, up and down with the emotions. Like, you know that they're going to be super high highs and super low lows, and just a little bit of like self-care through that, because especially in the beginning, I was running all 3 lines of business by myself: Medicare, individual, and group business. And there'd be times during open enrollment where I'm just like crying in the fetal position on the floor, just in my office, just laying on the floor crying, because it was so much. And after and we were in our house, so it had to be right after we got married. So we got married October 6th, which was my wedding anniversary 2 days ago,
right,
which Chris and I both forgot. Did I tell you that? We both forgot. Yeah, my mother-in-law texted. This is how this works, right? My mother-in-law texted at like 2 p.m. was like, happy anniversary. I was like, Glad somebody remembered. What? Whoops. You're right. It is 6, isn't it?
So what year was that? 2018 or 2019?
That was 2018.
2018. Right. Okay.
Yeah, because we got married October 6th. We moved into our house in August, got married in October in our backyard of the house we just
Sure.
remodeled. And then in November, so moved in August, got married in October. November, right before open enrollment started. No, I made it 1 year. So I made it 1 more year. And that Christmas, right after Christmas, I ended up in the hospital with stomach stuff because I was so stressed out. Like it was insane. And Chris is like, we're not doing this again. Okay. So then I hired some assistants and I got some help and I made it 1 more year almost. In October of 2019, I said, peace out. Cause I'd been working as like a 1099 for larger agencies. And what I found out is I was not on my own. I was not independent. I thought I was independent because they told me I was independent, but I wasn't. It was a lie. And I knew I needed to have access to the full capital that being independent brought me in order to hire and scale.
Okay.
Like I needed to have the top line revenue without somebody else taking my money.
Right. So is that where you feel like when you say you thought you were independent, but you weren't, you were beholden, there was a middleman that was catching all the capital and then just kind of throwing some bones out to you at the end.
Yeah. I was getting a slice of the pie, and in order to grow and scale, which is where I was getting, like I was so busy, I had to start hiring people. And I also knew I didn't want to be the only one writing for the rest of my career. I didn't want to be an independent service professional. I wanted to grow a company.
You didn't want to be in a box.
Nope. I needed to be able to scale. And so right before open enrollment, I said, I quit. See you later. And then I just figured it out that season. And I had some help, some assistant help. But remember, this is November 2019. So I'd only been on my own for what? November, December, January, February, until what? 4.5, maybe 4.5 months?
4.5 months, 5 months?
Maybe. Yeah.
When the sky decided to fall. Right.
Yeah. Before lockdown. And then, I mean, really, when we talk about this is where we get to the like super guts of the story is the same week of lockdown, we found out we were pregnant. And then all hell broke loose. And then you think it was crazy before.
If you didn't think it was crazy before.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is really like, there's the beginning, the like how I got into the business. And then there's the in between. It's the building and it's the really messy shit. It's the really messy, the trying to pull it off while surviving. Right? Because we had COVID survival, right? Everybody was in COVID survival. And then I had hyperemesis, gravitiosis, which basically means you vomit the entire pregnancy.
Right. Gravely, gravely ill throughout. For you, it was the entire duration of your pregnancy.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. And this is when Kaitlin and I started spending a lot of time together. And I remember we hadn't told anybody we were pregnant until after like 18 weeks because, things were really
No, you hadn't told anyone. I remember you and I were becoming friends at that point in time, but we didn't know each other really, really well. That wasn't public knowledge. And even after you shared the news that you were growing a human, you kept the cards about your HG very close to your chest. I don't think you told anyone about that really until he was born. As I recall.
Yeah, it was because it was really, yeah. We kept a lot of it. We kept all of it pretty quiet.
Even not knowing you well.
And a lot of that has to do with
your face that you were not well.
Oh yeah. Like I was like sunken in and a shade of gray. And I was really sick. I lost like 8-9% of my body weight before I was 23 weeks pregnant. And then even after I had Harrison, I was smaller after I had him than I had been in 5 years pre-pregnancy. It was really tiny. Um,
So,
it was, we didn't tell people for a lot of reasons, and one of them was because obviously the uncertainty in the world was insane, and we just decided to keep that pretty close, but a lot of it had to do with my business. And I think this is the thing that women in business run into is there is mommy discrimination. And I think that I was due in at the beginning of open enrollment. So I knew I had to hire some people. Otherwise, my business wasn't going to survive, right? Running
right,
open enrollment, what was having a baby.
right.
And we also didn't tell people because I didn't want people to think. The only thing on my mind was that people are going to think, oh, we don't want to bother her. We'll call somebody else. And that would have destroyed my business. And
But
so
that
we
was
kept, I mean,
your,
he's
but that was
still
also
like,
your perception and your expectation. How much did you see that play out in reality? Like
yeah,
you saw this
I
coming
was
and tried
really
to
scared.
play
Yep.
offense instead of defense.
Mhm.
You were very scared about your life and about your business.
Mhm.
Um,
'Cause
Looking
I didn't
back
know what it
on
was
it
gonna do to
now,
me.
how much of that do you think was pressure on that you put on yourself, like perceived challenge versus
Mm,
real challenge?
yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with, um, being single. So I got married at 35. I had been single all in my late 20s, all in my early 30s.
And
The
you were
person I
good
started
at
dating
it.
when I was like 31, 30. Yeah, I was good at it. It was fun. And I think that when you're in that space, women who say, and it may be society or culture or whatever,
Mhm.
women who say, and you're out there in the dating scene, I want to have a family and get married. Men run. They run,
Yeah,
right? Because, oh
right.
no,
Too much pressure too
oh
soon. Right.
no, too much pressure too soon, right? So I think I spent a lot of time putting myself, and I was in business and I had been in sales. And so I had a very like masculine, like mindset on a lot of things. And the feminine to me was weak. And so I didn't know, even when I was pregnant, my body and my mind were like freaking out because this was like forcing me into the femininity and into that like, side of the brain.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, 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 not going there. Um, and so when I was very depressed when I was pregnant because everybody was. It was COVID, right? So and I was sick and all the things. And so it was like, but as soon as Harrison got here, and I had hired, so a good friend of mine from college was like, because I put it out on Facebook, I'm hiring. She came and started working with me, and she's still with me. And I had 2 or 3 assistants who were working with me, and they were great. And they pulled off open enrollment and gave me 3 weeks of maternity leave. Their first year of open enrollment, but I had really good partners too. Like some of our wholesalers, I built great relationships with the women, and they were like, "All right, we know how sick she's been. We know what she's been going through. We're giving her maternity leave. We're going to help you guys, support you guys, and we'll do it." And they all kind of like bonded together to give me that time.
To get through
And
that.
yeah. And so I think that, and then we go into the first so it's really second year of business, but with started hiring and growing and building the agency, and what I learned out of that, and especially the first year of Harrison's life, was what determined women are capable of, what determined mothers are capable of, right? Is trusting, and not everybody's capable of it, right? Not everybody is,
Right.
but trusting in the women who were dedicated to the process, that they were responsible enough, mature enough, and had the values to both do their job and have mom balance,
And keep their
which I think
priorities
the
in
woman I
order.
was before that, and keep their priorities in
Right.
order. And that's why they wanted to work with me, and that's why they stayed.
That's what drew them to you. And so you came in to this process with this
Mhm.
really masculine energy, and that masculine energy is really what was giving you anxiety about starting your business. And as you shifted into more feminine energy, that's where you really found your success
Mm-hmm.
and freedom
Yeah.
from the anxieties that
Yeah.
you'd had before.
Mm-hmm. Which is crazy because I thought the power of building the business and the power in business was in the masculine mindset. But really, our secret sauce has come out of building this team of women and giving them the permission to both be badasses at their jobs and then also be badass moms.
Yeah. Yeah. To wear both hats and to
Which is
not make compromises on either end.
Mhm. Yeah. And that comes from, I think a lot of companies can say that, but I think the reason they believe it is I live it.
I
Like I'm
remember,
showing that in
yeah, I remember sitting with you on your back porch and you opening up about how motherhood has shifted your idea of what business should look like. We come to it with all these
Mhm.
ideas, and you had this revelation about how traditional business dealings, workings, schedules, processes are built around kind of a man's lifestyle and a man's mindset
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
priorities. And you said, I'm ready to just turn this all on its head. This doesn't work. It doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we've been able to build this thing, and I think that that's kind of created my why is being able to provide this opportunity to other women too, and give them the space to do that and to be successful in the way that works for them and creates better tiny humans because they have more present moms.
Because they have present parents.
So maybe we're yeah, more present parents, and maybe we're doing that, right? I hope we're doing that, kind of making our place in the world.
Why do you say maybe?
So the well, it's always hard to tell, right? I think we are. I think we're doing a pretty good
Is
job.
it?
Um, yeah, I feel like I think the I guess if I think about it, the proof that we are doing that is some of the women who have been with me the whole time, right? Like the whole
Yes.
time,
Yes.
and
For all of
and
these years, you've had these women walk
yes,
alongside you.
yeah,
And you've had lots of other
yeah,
women who were there for a season show up
hmm
with their
hmm
full selves to be a part of what you're doing.
yeah, 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 and I think that like I don't know, I think there's just a superpower in that kind of leadership. And it's women lead differently. I'll say it all day long, women lead differently than men. And I think a lot of the leadership classes and courses and things that are pushed out are aimed at men, and women just do it different.
They do. They do. So
And
what
so I
are, if you were going to enumerate, maybe a like top 3 or 5 female leadership characteristics or
mhm,
standards, where do you see the
yeah,
big differences?
flex ego. Women typically do not have the same ego issues, I think, in their leadership style. I think there's a lot more flexibility and empathy. Not everyone, obviously, this could be a big stereotype, right? And
Sure, sure. No one fits inside of a box, but things tend to categorize themselves for a reason.
yeah, yeah, and I think it it's about building. I don't just see people on my team as like, okay, they're doing their job, do your job or get out, right? I see people on my team and we look at their strengths and we try and develop their strengths and use them where they're good and see that they're really good in that box and in helping develop people. And that's just like it's a lot of nurturing in that professional piece of developing employees and people who are on our team. And I think that you definitely have some male leadership that do that too. But I do think that probably
Sure.
the biggest difference is ego.
So when is that kind of ego is strength? Like,
Well, I think it takes guts to sometimes you have to tap into that to like get out and be in front of people and not imposter syndrome, right, can get in the way when you think, oh, I'm not worthy. And I think people can smell that. And I think it's energy, right? I do a lot of manifestation, a lot of visualization, a lot of like, what are the goals? What does it look like, feel like, smell like tapping into that. And I don't know if it's so much ego, so much as it is just really believing in what you're doing and yourself, that you can do it and you deserve to be doing it. I think that can happen. I mean, I think everybody can get imposter syndrome, but just really like tapping into the strength and that you do deserve to be there.
But do deserve to be there.
You are making it happen. Yeah,
Right.
you do deserve to be there. And I think one of the things that one of the top reasons I wanted to do this podcast, like we did kind of some webinars and some certain, evolutions to get here, but I started out in January and I was like, I'm going to do a podcast. I've wanted to get out there and in different evolutions of what this looks like, kind of tell my story since Harrison was born. And I think at some point, like there's so many facets to, I mean, really, there was trauma, right? With trauma and depression and building all this at the same time while I was as sick as I was. I mean, they weren't letting pregnant women in the hospital hardly because they didn't know what COVID was going to do to us. And like finally, one of my best friends, Sarah, she'd been in the ER and she said, finally, she's like, what is wrong with you? Because I just disappeared. She's like, are you pregnant? Yes, and I'm dying. Like, and she told me, she said, I don't care what they have said. You need to go get fluids. You have to go get fluids because I was just so sick. I mean, and talk about like support through this journey. There were phone calls I would take off camera with like my head still in the bed, talking to clients and trying to do things. And then I'd sit up and get a few things done and then I'd pass back out. Because I was that ill. I mean, and like there were times Chris had to carry me to the bathroom because I was that sick and I was so weak. And so there's he and I both have gone through a lot of trauma on the other side of that, like dealing kind of with what we went through while building the business.
While building a
While
business.
he had just pivoted. He had just gone from full service marketing agency to doing video only right before a lockdown where you couldn't do any video.
Right. So I think a lot of people would be listening to your story going, why was that worth it?
Yeah. And
What's
I think
your answer?
during the process, like what keeps you going, right? So I'm sick, I'm building the business. I just quit. And for me, I think it was normalcy. It was the one thing I could control. I couldn't control lockdown. I couldn't control how sick I was. I couldn't control the depression that came with it. What I could control was what I knew and what I was good at and the business. That's what I could do. That's what I was good at doing. And so I kind of just leaned into that. And then it's very interesting how coming out, like Harrison was born November 5th, 2020. We're still in COVID. We start coming out of COVID towards the spring in terms of like people like starting to get out and do things. And we were hiring and going and doing. And by the spring of 21, people were moving and starting to do some things. And how the evolution of building the business kind of just happened. I mean, it happened naturally. We hired, we grew. I think so much of it is about mindset. I don't think that I have any special secret sauce that why we've been able to build this that somebody else couldn't do. I honestly think so much about it is about mindset and just like, I mean, and I've had some really hard stuff happen with the business, really, really hard stuff. And people you trusted that, let you down or broke that trust and just some hard crap to get through. But I think one of the things that has kept me going and gets me through that messy is really visualizing myself on the other side. And it's something, I don't even remember who it was that told me this. It was probably over like almost 2 years ago. They said, when I was going through some really hard crap, they said, see yourself on the other side. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? So when you start to get like the rabbit hamster wheel spinning tornado of anxiety, when you're freaking out trying to get through something, they were like, just stop and say, okay, wait, let me go to the other side. You have to just get out of the wind and go to the other side, and just keep focusing on that as you're going through. And that's the thing that's kept me going through some of the like really hard stuff is this is a season, this too shall pass. And there's always something to come out of it.
What are some of the biggest hurdles that have come out of it for you? You walked through launching two businesses together.
Yeah.
You've gone through some pretty tremendous hurdles in your business since you launched it. So what are the treasures?
Yeah. So I think being able to, if I hadn't gone through the experience I did while building the business, while being so sick, I don't know that I would have come out with such an appreciation of the strength of women, and the value in, and just incredible human superpower that, growing a human or being a mom in any capacity is. And then coming out of that and being able to tap into that femininity as as a superpower, and to use it to build the community and the culture we have in our company. I just don't think I would have ever gotten it to who that I am as a leader of the Shields agency without it going through some of that. And then some of the other stuff that's happened, like we tried to launch PNC a couple years ago, and it was an absolute and total disaster. And a couple people had told me ahead of time, you might not want to do that. Trying to do both is really hard. Maybe you should just, stay in your lane, do good what you're doing. And that's exactly what happened, right? Is it flopped, and that's okay. It's like, all right, pick up, keep going. And then just, the other hurdles of business and people coming and going. And sometimes that breaks your heart, but then you have to like get on the other side of it and go, okay, like you said, they were here for a season. They gave until they couldn't, until it wasn't a fit anymore. And just respecting that whole process. So, yeah. Did I miss anything? I don't know if I missed anything.
You miss anything? Well, let's talk about where you are here now. So when did you know
the podcast?
When did you know through launching this business under chaotic circumstances and going through some big hurdles, like trying to expand your business and having that kind of not work out? When did you know that you really had made it? Like, when did you sit back and go, wow, look at this beautiful thing I've created. Yeah. I feel good about this now.
I don't think you ever make it. I think I have to stop, and I think entrepreneurs have to stop and go, whoa, look what I have done, and have moments of gratitude and appreciation for where you were and where you are. I think it is natural for entrepreneurs to be like, let's do more, and never think it's enough, and always be chasing the next opportunity. And I think it's really, really important to step back and have a little gratitude for what you have done.
There's a saying that what you appreciate appreciates. What do you make a point to stop and appreciate so that it can continue to grow?
It's always somebody who says something, and then they probably don't even think that it's like a big deal that they say something, and then I'll process it, I'll ponder it, and I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Usually not right then. It usually takes me weeks, and I've usually forgotten who said it by then. But I had somebody tell me, probably in the last year, they said, when you started this, you wanted to build a business that also allowed you to be a present mom. And you've done it. You did it. You did what you wanted to do, and you are there, and you do get to be present. And you've given that opportunity to other moms too. Look what you did.
What you did.
And I'm like, I hadn't stopped to like think about the fact that that is what I wanted to do. I didn't ever even think about it. I just kept going. And you're like, oh wait, I did want to do that. And then I did it. And that feels really good, right? is being able to sit in the appreciation of that and knowing that that was important to me when Harrison was born, and that I've been able to do that. I mean, most of it since he was little, I've been able to have a lot of time with him, and so that's been really good. And that was,
And now he's
37 when I had Harrison, and only, and now he's almost 5.
now he's 5. Like soon.
Oh, soon, November 5th.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's huge
he's ready for
and
school.
stinky.
You spent so much
Yeah.
quality time with him in his toddler years.
Mhm,
And like you
mhm.
said, you gave
Yeah.
a list of other moms the opportunity to do the same thing with their small children at the same
Yeah.
time. What a beautiful gift that
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So I feel really good about that. And then I think that the purpose and the passion of the podcast is really talking about, and so I think I said this in the beginning, I didn't record this one first because I was scared of it. So we've had a few recordings with some of the guests, and they've been super amazing. Because we're talking about the really messy stuff, right? And the stuff that people don't show you on Instagram, the stuff people aren't, I think we see so much perfect and so much falsity in social media, and the presence that being vulnerable and talking about how messy this gets, like taking business phone calls at the playground, or having to
Yeah.
mute because you're on a call and your kids start screaming in the other room.
Or because you have to go be sick in the trash can next to your bed.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That. I think COVID kind of changed a lot of the outlook on Zoom calls, and sometimes there will be kids present. I did have somebody tell a story recently, and she's a very successful woman, and she had her kids pop in on a client call. She was pitching. They just got home from school. They popped in, they popped out, not disruptive. And she said the client called her back a few days later and said, "Are you sure that you're up for this job? I mean, you have kids."
Yeah. How could you
Yeah.
possibly do both?
Yeah.
As if women haven't been
Yeah.
doing both in many,
Both
many like unseen ways for generations.
So I guess, all right. So the podcast, life, business, and everything in between.
Yes. So as you were saying earlier, as an entrepreneur, you decided you needed more, and you needed more, and you needed more. And now you're making a podcast.
Yeah. And now we're making a podcast, but it's really about connection. It's really about connection. So stay tuned. We have several recorded that we're going to be dropping. I think we're dropping a few at one time, and then we'll be releasing a few more. One, I was supposed to have like my second or third one be with my husband, but he canceled on me, so we had to reschedule. We're going to do one together.
Have an anniversary dinner
fun.
first.
He did cancel. Oh yeah, I know. My mom is taking Harrison all weekend, so we will be able to have an anniversary dinner, since we just both forgot. I mean, it was a Monday. That was hard.
Yeah, come on. Monday.
That it was our and it's 7. 7's just kind of stuck. It's not 5. It's not 10. It's somewhere in the middle.
It's somewhere in the middle. But
so what you're going to hear is So what you're going to hear is you're going to hear from entrepreneurs. You're going to hear from creatives. You're going to hear from moms and other people who are just figuring it out and what that looks like. I am going to do a solo episode at some point. Maybe we won't talk about my journey on the solo episode. That was really intimidating. But we could, do some solo episodes. We're going to have some interviews, do some roundtables. And they are going to come with disclaimers that say there may be words in here not appropriate for children, because when you get this raw, people, there were words dropped.
Things just come out.
But I think that's also part of They do. They come out, but it also makes it authentic. And
it does.
And I love that. So,
and I think if we're being really honest, like for most of us, especially the people on this pod right now, their kids have maybe already heard some of those words. But all the same.
maybe.
All the same, maybe we don't want them to hear them on, on the car speakers.
On Spotify.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So So I guess at the heart of it, it's not about business growth. Yeah, maybe we talk about the Shields agency because I think when you're an entrepreneur, your business is like an organism of who you are. But it's really about life growth and about authentic. It is. You're like babying this thing and growing it. Yeah. So, well, thank you, Kaitlin. I really appreciate you being here.
It was so good to see you.
Yeah. And so here's what I'll say is welcome everybody to the podcast, Life, Business, and Everything in Between. And we are so happy that you're here. We have so much gratitude and love for you. And if there's somebody that you think would also like the podcast, please share it. And stay tuned for more. And grab a cup of coffee, grab a glass of wine, but don't do that if you're driving and listen to the podcast. But stay tuned. We are excited about big things for life, business, and everything in between. And thanks, Kaitlin.
You're welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to Life, Business, and Everything in Between. If today's episode gave you something to think about or made you feel less alone in the hustle, we'd love it if you follow the show and share it with a friend. Real stories, real talk, and just enough chaos to keep it interesting. We'll see you next time.